Hello and welcome. I'm a few minutes late, but I'm just going to blame on Mercury retrograde for now. So I was having technical issues. I'm now broadcasting with my phone because nothing else was working. So welcome. We're here to talk about children. It's my passion, my life's mission, not only to spread joy and help myself thrive, but also especially to help the little ones. Hi, Fernanda. And I'm really excited to get together with you today to talk about a few serious topics, but also about some solutions, things that we can do, because I feel right now many of us are maybe feeling a little powerless or even helpless with all that's going on in this world. So before we start diving into this beautiful topic and finding ways that we can support our children and help them overcome fear and adversity, tell me where you're tuning in from. Hi, Lisa. I see that we have lots of people from different countries joining. Hi, Denise. Hi, Anne. And I love to get us circled together before we start doing some deep work and talking about some important topics. Tell me where you're tuning in from, and are you a parent? Do you have children yourself? Are you a caretaker? Maybe you're a teacher. Maybe you're an amazing aunt or uncle. So what is your connection to children, and why do you care? I really want to know. Hi, Amber. So good to have you here. Children have been part of my life ever since I can remember. My mom has been in education for over 50 years now, and I myself am a mom of 3 children of my own, and I have 5 stepchildren. So I have been so blessed to be with children and around children from a very early age on. And what I'm seeing right now is that I feel we have a lot of knowledge, we have a lot of information coming out on awful things like the pedophilia that is going on in Hollywood, the satanic rituals that are going on, child trafficking, sex trafficking. And I think sometimes this can be so overwhelming and so horrifying that we can feel, well, what am I going to do about it, right? So we kind of numb out. So before we all get together, and as we're gathering now, let's set the intention for this call, okay? It's something that I like doing for anything that's really important to me. So before we even go any further, let's take a few breaths together. Hi, Aphrodite, and ground down into this present moment. Maybe imagine you're like this beautiful tree in a magical garden, and you have these roots growing down into the earth as you become aware of your body. Maybe become aware of the soles of your feet. And just imagine for a moment that you could breathe through those soles of your feet. Hi, Sonia. We're just grounding down. We're setting the intention for this call. The way that I like setting an intention is by first grounding down and then taking a few deep breaths into the space of my heart. So join me in that. And then whenever it feels right and safe for you, you can close your eyes. Just take a minute. And when you have your eyes closed, roll them up as if you're looking through the crown of your head. This puts your brain into theta, and I'll tell you more about that later. Okay, and now say, even if I don't know how to keep my children safe and help children all over this globe thrive and overcome adversity, overcome the challenges that they are facing, even if I don't know how to do that, all I do know is that it is so now, and I am fulfilled. I delete all programming that could stop me. And I download everything I need to do so now with grace, ease, and joy. Thank you. Thank you. So it is, so it shall be, or something even better. Okay, take one more breath. Open your eyes, and now we've set the goal, right? We're saying, okay, why are we here? What do we want to do? And now we can really start. And this is something that I feel is so important. So if you take something away from this call, take away that power of setting your intention. And by doing it the way we did just now, you're being a crystal clear channel. You're saying some very definitive words, right? You're being very clear in your intention. You're also bringing your brain into the theta brainwave zone. And in a moment, I'll tell you why that is so powerful. But for now, know that the theta brainwave zone is a very relaxed brainwave state. And when we're in that relaxed brainwave state, stating a clear intention like that, something actually happens in our brains, right? So everything in us aligns with this goal. And that is something that I think we should be teaching our children too, because we all are powerful manifestors. And if we don't know how to manifest consciously, we could be manifesting a whole bunch of stuff we don't want. And I think our children deserve to know how to do that. So let's talk about what's happening right now. I think we know that these past months, 2020, has been quite the year. We've had so many changes, so many really shocking events unfolding in this year that it can be very easy to be rattled and maybe feel uncertain and insecure about where we're going and what's happening, because we all just don't know. And you know, there's one thing for us adults to be dealing with this, because we have obviously more skills and more resources at our fingertips. We usually yield more power, but children don't have that. And children have something else that I think we're often not aware of, and that is that their brains are in such relaxed brainwave states until they hit puberty that they are incredibly easily programmable. Now, we might think, oh, well, this is great, so I can get my children to do what I want them to do when I want them to do it. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Yes, that is possible if you're a good parent, if you have a great relationship with your child. You will most likely have many times when you will be able to get them to do what you want them to do when you want them to do it. But let's face it, normally that is not the case, because as human beings, we all have two kind of buckets that we need to have filled. And these two buckets are power and attention. And right now, children do not have a lot of power. So their attention is obviously all around them, right? They're discovering world, they're discovering what's going on right now, and they're getting a lot of messages that are not really health promoting. Think about it. We're telling them to take distance from people, to not get too close to people. There are even little scripts that they're getting at schools of what is right and what is wrong, and you mustn't be too close to people. Then we have the whole masking issue. So there's a lot of stuff going on that is rattling for us adults, but for children this is even more impressionable, because children just from their brains are in different brainwave states. Let me tell you more about that. When we're born, up until the age of 2, we are most of the time in a delta brainwave state. Now, you and I are only in delta when we sleep at night. That's how relaxed it is. So children from the age of 0 to 2 are in delta, which means that everything that happens to them, everything that is said to them, it goes right into their unconscious mind, which is why we call the first 7 years of childhood the programming years, because at the age of 2, they switch from delta, that deeply relaxed brainwave state, into theta, still a super relaxed brainwave state that you and I normally need practice to get into. Theta is the brainwave state that we want to get into when we meditate, when we do healing work, also when we want to set an intention. That's why we roll the eyes up, because you see, by rolling the eyes up, we're giving the brain the command to relax. And when we do that, our brain immediately goes down into theta. So this is a great brain hack that I hope you will be using lots of times. It can create incredible miracles. I could do just a workshop on intention setting. That's how cool it is. So at the age of 2, they then children switch into the theta brainwave state. Now they stay in theta until they reach age 7. So we're talking already school, right? So these kids are sitting in school in the early years in theta brainwave state, super relaxed. You and I would meditate. And then we are demanding from them on this frontal education to just take in all that knowledge that we're giving them. And usually, sadly, we're not teaching them in the way that really respects all parts of the brain. Because you see, we have different channels of information going on. We have visual channels, we have auditory channels, we have kinesthetic channels, we have auditory digital channels. That's that conversation in our head. And if we're only, for instance, teaching in one way, we are only hitting, or we're only reaching a small group of children that happen to learn in that way. So what I've done in my Joyful Kids program is I've used all channels of information, everything that I've learned from NLP, from hypnosis, from working with kids and adults for so many years. And I've put it all in a compact program so that we have something to help children deal with challenges with, so we can teach children how to reduce stress. Because what we need is relaxed brains brains if we want those brains to learn something. If we're in an agitated state, if we're in a highly emotional state, our highest part of our brain, so the neofrontal cortex, so the newest part of our brain, literally shuts off. So those relaxed brainwave states would be such beautiful opportunities to be able to teach children in if we do it right. Okay, so we talked about until age 7 theta. So what happens at age 7? Well, then children switch into alpha. Still a relaxed brainwave state. You and I, usually when we start meditating, we slip into alpha and then we go on longer, we go into theta. So by children being in these relaxed brainwave states, as I've said, they're very programmable. That means that there's no real conscious filter like we have as adults where we can say, I reject this information, I accept this information. It just all goes in there. And then if we're looking at people of authority, so parents, teachers, people who wield power over children, and that's usually us adults, and then we will see that everything that we say to them, our words, are truly either magic, they can be healing, or they can be really destructive. And right now what we have going on is that we have children, even if they're not tapped into social media, even if they're not, consciously watching the news, they are receiving all this information. And I think what we're forgetting is the power of the conscious collective. So it's not just about you and me. Even if you as a parent maybe are super calm and saying, I've got this, I'm not letting COVID or anything drive me crazy, that doesn't mean that your children are not receiving all those fearful information from somewhere else. And then right now we have a world where we are being bombarded with information, right? Like never before. Just 20 years ago, the amount of information that we were receiving was like 10% of what we have now. Researchers are saying we have up to 34 gigabytes of information coming at us. Now, consciously, we can only process 20 pieces of information per second. 20 pieces, millions coming at you. So don't underestimate what information your children are picking up. And even if they seem to be doing well, it's a really good time now to be having great conversations with our children. And one of the conversations I would encourage you to have is that you ask them how they feel loved by you. How do you know I love you? Ask your kid that. And then listen to the answers. Because when you listen to the answers that children will give you when you ask them how they know that you love them, you will find out what language of love they speak. So every one of us has a primary love language. And I'll just run those love languages by you quickly so you know where you are. And you can take an online test anytime, 5lovelanguages.com, and then you'll find out what your primary love language is. So we have a love language called physical touch. It's a love language. We want to become masters in all these 5, right? So physical touch is something that children are right now, unfortunately, not really getting. They're being told to hold distance with other people, even with their friends. So not having physical touch as a love language right now is going to have impact. We must know that. So you can do a lot as a parent to kind of help there to support your kid. So if your child, for instance, says, I know that you love me because you often hug me, because you stroke my face when I go to sleep, or because you give me a kiss when you say goodbye, your kid, its primary love language is physical touch. So when you know that if you really want to have impact with this child, if you want to help this child feel loved, you want to touch the kid in a good way, right? You want to give it a hug. You want to maybe, put your hand on its shoulder while you're telling it something important. Physical touch, one of the love languages. Then we have acts of service. That's when you do something for someone else. So when you ask your kid, how do you know that I love you? And your kid says, oh, because you always cook such nice dinners for me, because you tidy up my room for me, because you do this for me, because you do that for me, you can take a pretty sure bet that your kid's love language is acts of service, okay? So you want to do more of those. You want to make sure that you ask your kid, what can I do to help you? Is there anything I could do today for you? Then we have, as the next love language, we have words of affirmation. Those are basically compliments, when you say nice things to someone else. So if your kid says, I know that you love me because you tell me that you love me when you say goodnight, you tell me that I'm a good kid, you tell me how proud you are of me, then words of affirmation is what you want to be using and what you want to be using more of to reach your kid and to help your kid overcome fear. And I want to talk about that fear in a moment, right? Okay, so we had physical touch, we had acts of service, we have words of affirmation, now we have quality time. Quality time is uninterrupted, focused time on another person. One-on-one, you're giving them your full attention. Now remember, the attention bucket with children and adults, right? We all have it. So we all need to feel that we're given attention, that we're important, that we matter. So when your kid, for instance, says, I know that you love me because you love hanging out with me and we watch TV together or we play games together, then you know that quality time doing something with your kid is the way that you're going to reach it best. Okay, what else do we have? Acts of service, quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation. I'm missing one. Okay, who's going to help me? Hi, Sylvia. Yeah, ask your grandkids. That's totally true. Let me look it up. I wrote it down because, my brain sometimes goes blank like this. Oh, receiving gifts. That's another love language. Receiving gifts. So this is when your kid likes, I don't know, picking a flower for you, making something special for you, giving you a surprise. Or it says to you, I know that you love me when you bring me a little, I don't know, souvenir from your travels, or because on my birthday you got me exactly what I wanted. Then receiving gifts is big for them, right? So learning these love languages is only a tiny little bit that, for instance, I go deep into in my Joyful Kids Mastermind. So let me tell you about the Joyful Kids program a little bit so that you know what you're dealing with. So I created this program that I designed to be able to help any kid anywhere, even if I don't speak their language. Because I was getting so stressed out about all the damage that is being done to kids right now. As a psychologist, I just know that if we don't help our kids right now, we are going to be facing a generation of traumatized leaders. And I don't think we need more of that. Because you see, when children go through traumatic experiences, and what we have right now is a global trauma, right? The global shutdown, this virus thing going on the whole time, being told all this messaging for children and also for adults, it can feel like war. It's war against an invisible enemy. So this warlike situation will leave traces. It will affect our children's brains. We need to know that. Denial is not a thing now. So we can do something about that. One is having these conversations with our children, helping our children feel safe. And here's the thing, the more we help ourselves feel safe and find our joy and stay connected to our hearts, do all that good stuff, the more we're going to be able to be role models for our children and help them do the same. And in the Joyful Kids program, I developed, a very, very simple structure so that we have 5 steps to find our joy. We have 5 moves, 5 places that we tap to be able to de-stress the body. Because one thing I know, stress is going to be always part of our lives, right? Adversity is part of life because that's how we learn. We learn through our challenges. We learn through those times that we overcame an obstacle. Because when we overcome an obstacle, we've learned something, and then we can look back and say, hey, I'm the hero of my journey. And I want kids to be able to do that too. Because when we learn as children how to overcome adversity, we become resilient. And when we become resilient, that means that we can bounce back from adversity much faster. We can kind of fix our crown and get up again, right? And when children do that, they literally become the heroes of their own journey and not victims of their past. How many adults have I coached who at age, 55, are still holding on to some childhood trauma, something that happened when they were little, and that has just impacted them so deeply that they've never been able to form real deep relationships. They've never been able to be as successful as they want to. That happens. So I say tackle the beast right early on, face adversity heart on, and then notice how much strength and how much resilience we actually have. And when we train those kind of muscles, that attitude in children, then they can really become those powerful and compassionate leaders that we need on this world, I think, so desperately. Okay, the other thing that I feel that's happening right now is that children are being stopped in their spontaneity. That awesome, open mind and joyfulness for life and that spontaneous way of dealing with life is something that's being shut down right now. We're telling children to keep to rules that usually do not even make sense, that even my 10-year-old daughter at our evening room, dinner table will tell me, how is this making sense? It's, why do I have to keep 8-foot distance to someone and wear my mask? Either these masks work or I need to keep 8-foot distance. Why do I have to have my mask on if I'm out in the open air? Why this? Why that? So children are not stupid. They understand that right now something's going on that is ununderstandable. And this kind of vibe that they're living in is also creating a lot of guilt tripping. I mean, I was horrified to see, I don't know how many clips of politicians and people who are neither educators, nor psychologists, nor seemingly friends of children, tell children that, you've got to do this social distancing, you've got to wear your mask, and you've got to do that, otherwise you're going to kill your grandma. I mean, excuse me? What is that? And that guilt tripping, it's doing something to our kids. So we want to address these issues with our children, and we want to reaffirm them in their divinity, telling them, you are powerful, you are strong, and you've got a free mind, you've got a powerful heart, you are an incredible creator. And when we teach children how to be conscious creators of their lives, they can take over that responsibility. And I think that is the most empowering thing that we can do. So let's retrace. Right now, we have a lot of people with big backpacks of unresolved emotions, unresolved childhood issues, and we're perpetuating this pattern of disease and violence. So I'm saying, let's stop it. Let's stop it right now and claim responsibility for our own emotions. So teaching children emotional intelligence is something that is a key factor of the Joyful Kids program. And the way that I do it is that I don't even always ask children to label the emotion that they're feeling. I use emojis. I show them different pictures of emojis, and I say, okay, so if you had to pick one of these emojis, how do you feel right now? Because you see, especially when you're dealing with younger children, they don't even know what, anger, sad, frustration, worry. They often don't even know those labels, but they will be able to read the face. That's why masks are so destructive, because they can't read the people's faces anymore. So children, when they can read a person's face, they can feel that emotion. Children are empaths, right? So first we define, what emotion are you feeling right now? Show me. And then, do you know where you feel that in your body? Is there a part of your body that feels different when you feel that feeling? And then I ask them to define the size of the emotion. So I say, how big is this thing? Is it tiny? Is it small? Is it medium? Is it large? Is it extra large? What size is it? And I often use marbles showing that. And this is something that I teach my Joyful Kids ambassadors in. It's a one-day training, right? In a one-day training, you can become a Joyful Kids ambassador and learn all this that I'm telling you right now. So then we define the size of the emotion, because I always say to the kids, we're researchers. I'm going to show you something right now where you can shift how you feel. How does that sound? And I want to do that. So I said, okay. So tell me how you feel now. Tell me, how big is this thing? And then once we've defined how big it is, we simply do the 5. And the 5 is a simple tapping technique that I developed, coming actually out of the 5 elements of traditional Chinese medicine, where we affirm certain affirmations like, I am powerful, I am loved, I am free, all these good things. And then we tap different points on our body. I tell them these are your magic buttons, right? Because when we tap these points right up here, this is fear. Okay, so if anybody's feeling fear right now, you could just join in. And you tap here. When we tap these points, like right now, we're tapping the end point of the kidney meridian. Now, our kidneys can get real stressed out if we feel fear, and especially if we feel chronic fear. So by tapping here, we're already shifting the energy in the body, because you're literally sending vibrations down that meridian, that highway of energy in your body. And now you're going to say, I love and accept myself, even when I feel scared. And I love and accept myself when I now choose to feel courageous, to feel brave. I am so brave. And then I ask the kids to say, roar like a lion, roar like a huge lion, and tell me how brave you are, okay? And then we'll tap these 5 points, and then, you see, I will teach them to go to their happy place. And that is something that you can do too. Once Roy and I were teaching in China, And it was not my favorite place to teach at that time. There was a lot of reasons for that, but whatever. And we were sitting at breakfast in this Chinese hotel, and I had looked at all the soup and the broccoli and the eggs that were for breakfast. And I was feeling really grumpy because I wanted fruit. I knew what I want for breakfast. Anyway, so I sat at my table feeling kind of, I don't know, why am I here? And then up comes this random guy, sits down and says, ooh, I see you don't like China that much. You're not having a good time. And I said, I'm adjusting. And he said, you need to go to your happy place. Imagine life is just like having a bag of M&Ms. And what you need to do in these times when you're not feeling good is you need to imagine that you're biting on this M&M and you're going into your happy place in your brain. So what I do in the Joyful Kids program is I don't work with M&Ms because I don't believe in those, but I do believe in telling and teaching children how to find their own happy place. And I give them ideas. I'll say, how about a magical garden? Would you like to imagine going into this magical garden with all these magical animals and plants and the birds and maybe there's a little river there? Would that be nice? Or would you like to go to a castle in the clouds? Maybe you would like to feel like a king or a queen today. How about going to that castle in your clouds? Or maybe you'd like to go to a rainbow pyramid and imagine all those colors of the rainbow flowing through your body, or whatever, right? And by children defining their favorite happy place, they have a place to go to in their mind when they're in a situation that they don't like, when they're in somewhere, trying to go to sleep at night. It's so valuable to teach children how to meditate, but I don't even call it meditation because all it is for them is a natural state of being. Children are so tapped into their intuition and their imagination, it's easy for them to learn these things. And actually then we can often discover that children become our teachers. So the Joyful Kids program is taught by me and my 10-year-old daughter, Grace, because she was definitely part in the creation, part of the teaching, and she always will be because it's just as much as a mission to her as it is to me. If you ask Grace, what do you want to do in life? What do you want to be? She says, I want to help children. And I'm sure she's going to continue doing that. So we created the Joyful Kids program together, and you can learn it in a day. There are 4 lessons. You could do them at any time. It's all online. We've even translated it into German and into Italian, and the whole manual. So you'll get cheat sheets. I created flowcharts. It's all very colorful and stuff, right? You get all that in 6 different languages. So I've had it translated into Chinese, into Dutch, into French. There's no excuse. And I believe that if you're interested in helping yourself or others, this might be the perfect program for you because it's so easy to learn. And I love creating it because it forced me to take everything that I know and I'm not going to say dumb it down. I'm going to say simplify it into a way that I can help a kid understand who's maybe 3 years old, maybe is blind, maybe doesn't even speak my language. So that's why I was talking about all those different channels of information, because when we respect those channels of information and we respect the brainwave states that children are in, it's so easy to teach them things. And just the other day, I was doing a session with a little girl who had a fire trauma. So she had been on vacation with her parents and family on, I think it was the Maldives. And while they were on the Maldives, the atoll that they were staying at, the wooden structure of the hotel started burning. So they were saved, nothing happened, no people were lost, but it deeply traumatized this 5-year-old kid. So they'd been to psychologists and all kinds of doctors to try and help this kid because she was so terrified of fire that if she'd even see a candle, she would just freak out. So they called me and asked me if I would like to help. And I said, of course, this is perfect. I would love to do that. And we just had a little conversation. I spent 20 minutes with her and we talked about the fire. And then I asked her, what do you feel inside when that happened? And what do you feel inside when you think about it now? And she said it was fear. So we did the 5, I did the 5 steps to joy. And at the end, I said, so how do you feel now? And she said, this is so cool. I was thinking, can I do this in the morning and in the evening? And I said, hell yeah. And she said, and could I teach my brother? And I said, of course you can. And then she said, and does this work for any emotion? And I said, of course it does. And you should have seen the smile on her face, the sense of empowerment that girl got. Because when they learn to overcome a challenge like that themselves, right? And they find that wisdom and the tools within their own selves, they've just grown this much. And I know that that is going to be one of my most, passionate Joyful Kids ambassadors. And that's how I see the program. So you can join with your kids, just don't force them. You do it first, you be enthusiastic, and then inspire them. Okay, but invite them in. If they'd like to join, it is totally doable. As I said, Grace is teaching it too. You can take those 4 lessons at your own time. You can rewind, go back, you can download all the stuff. You also, of course, have some beautiful good night stories now, because we created some Joyful Kids meditations, and the Joyful Kid meditation that you have in the program is one of Gracie's favorite good night stories. And I've heard that a few adults are now using it too to sleep. So I would love to have you there. I would love to invite you to watch my free webinar. It's 1 hour of me explaining the Joyful Kids program, and then you have the option to sign up for the training. It's a 1-day training. It's very affordable. And if you'd then like to go deeper, you still have time to join my Joyful Kids Mastermind. So here we're going to be a small group, a select group that up until now we're all women, but we do welcome guys too. And we're going to be meeting once a month. We're going to be creating things together. We're going to be discussing how and strategizing how we can now get out into the open even more, so that we can start helping people who run charities, who run philanthropic agencies. Because you see, this program can be used anywhere. You can use it in a school, you can use it in a home, you can use it in any of the facilities where children are. My dream is to have a big pop concert one day, to be able to fill a stadium with kids and show them how to transform their lives, how to manage their emotions, how to become intuitively intelligent, although they already are, but how to strengthen that, how to keep that connection to their intuition, because then they truly are going to be those compassionate and wise leaders. And that's what it's about for me. Okay, so when we look at how children deal with trauma, then we will notice that there are kind of 2 groups. I would say there's the one group of children who will act out. You will notice something's off. They might start getting nightmares, their eating habits will change, their sleeping habits will change. They might suddenly become really stubborn or awkward in situations that they used to be fine in. So they're kids that act out. There, at least, we know that something's going on. The other group of children are those where you wouldn't notice. They kind of close off. They shut down. They might become extremely amiable. They might be extremely compliant with everything that you're saying, but actually they're not dealing with it very well. So I say to talk to all your kids, whether you think there's something going on or not. Because what I've noticed from being a mom for so long, I think the most important thing is to keep those channels of communication open with our children. And we know from NLP and hypnosis and all personal transformational work that step 1 to be able to work with someone, to help someone, is what? What do you think? It's building rapport. We have to have connection. And I think so often as adults, we can be like these bumbling elephants. And, oh, come in, I'm going to tell you how this works, right? And the kid's like, who are you? And why would you know, right? So building rapport, having those channels of communication open are the first step that you need to really take into consideration if you want to work with children. And it's easy to build connection with kids because technically, unless they're super traumatized, they want to connect, right? We humans are social creatures. So my best advice there is meet your children where they are, especially when we're dealing with teenagers. Don't make them come to you. You go to them. Also with little kids. If you want to talk and hang out with your kids, you go into their bedroom. You go and sit down on their floor and play Lego with them where they are, and not command them to come over to you and say, I need to talk to you. That's a good way to do it. The other thing is to, as I told you at the beginning, is to ask some questions. To see, what I like doing with my kids is I check in with them every now and again, and I say, how am I doing as a mom? How many points am I going to get? Are there areas of improvement? I think when we do that, we're also showing our kids, we're not perfect, and we want an honest relationship with them. And Amber, you're saying we have to create a safe place. Yes, absolutely. By helping them feel safe, they're also going to be more likely to hear you. Because when we don't feel safe, part of us is in on alert mode, right? That reptilian brain of ours is firing up. And when we're in that alert mode, we're not going to learn. We're not going to listen. So we want to calm everything down. And that's why in the Joyful Kids program, we learn how to manage our emotions, how to switch our emotions, right? If we feel sad, we acknowledge that we're feeling sad, but then we let it go. And then we choose for happiness again. So I think, yes, creating a safe place and having those conversations is really, really important. My children, what they tell me, it's a good question. So far, I've done pretty well. So I've got good points on being a mom. And when I last asked them, I asked them, what do you feel that I did really good as a mom? What did I teach you? And then my boys, who are now 23 and 22, they said, Mom, the things that you taught us most are independence and self-confidence. And I thought, that's good. I think I did a pretty good job. And then when I asked Grace how she knows that I love her, she said, because you always read me goodnight stories, because you're there for me when I'm sad, and because you go walk for the dogs. She loves her puppies. So by me doing that act of service of walking her dog, right, she feels love too. Thank you for believing that I get great scores. Yeah. Sometimes my kids don't like me, and that is something that I think as parents, we also have to feel comfortable with. I remember just a few years ago, I caught myself in that trap of trying to please my children so hard. And then I realized, that's not authentic either, because when I am people pleasing my own kids, am I teaching them to look after their own needs, to respect, what they need? No, I'm not. I'm telling them you've got to please everybody to be able to be a good person. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge our vulnerability as a parent and realize, I always used to say, you can choose how you're going to screw your kids up, but know that you are going to screw them up, because that's part of the deal. We have to kind of do that to them to be able to then help them heal from it too. And so I think finding peace with that was very helpful to me, to be able to shed that mommy guilt. And, working with so many women from all over the world, I can tell you almost every mom has mom guilt. And mom guilt is not helpful, because one thing I know for sure, even the most terrible parent is doing their best. And usually when they're terrible parents, it's because they are terrible parents too. So I think it's enough of the blame game. We've got to stop shaming each other, and we've got to just own who we are and say, okay, I'm going to do my best, and every day I'm going to continue doing my best. And that's why I feel having rituals with our children, little things, right? Even if it's like having one meal a day together, or I don't know, if they're little kids, always taking them to bed, always making time for connection is going to be your most valuable tool. But to be able to build that healthy relationship so that your kids can come to you when something is going on, right? Okay, so let me see what else I wrote down. Yeah, school start. Whew. Grace starts a new school tomorrow, and she's my personal hero right now, because she's just come from America, right? Her main language is English, and she's going to be tomorrow starting in a German-speaking school. Doesn't know anybody. It's a music middle school, so she's very excited about learning guitar, and I'm sure she's going to have a great time. But if you ask her now, how are you feeling? She says, I'm feeling excited and nervous and happy. All these different emotions. So before we go to bed tonight, we're going to set our intention not only for the night, how would you like to sleep tonight? But we're also going to set our intention for tomorrow. So what is it that you want to experience tomorrow? What is that one thing that is the most important thing to you? And when we do that, I can guarantee you she's not only going to sleep better, but when she wakes up tomorrow morning, I'm sure she's going to feel more motivated and excited rather than fearful. And when we drive to school tomorrow, guess which points we will be tapping? For sure these, right? So maybe there's something that you're nervous about. Maybe there's something that you're feeling afraid of. Why don't we all together do a little practice? Hi, Piccolo. We're talking about fear, and fear is a part of life, and fear helps us rise. So let's own that fear that we feel inside of us. Tap right underneath your collarbones, on your chest bone, the end point of your kidney meridian. And now say, I love and accept myself, even if I feel scared. And I love and accept myself when I now choose to be brave and courageous For I am powerful, and I am strong, and I am loved, and I am free. And now breathe. And even if you didn't remember anything of what I just said, just by tapping those points and by taking a few deep breaths, you're kind of activating a switch in your brain. You're telling your brain to step out of the frenzy, step out of fear mode, and tune back into courage and calmness. And then we're all back into those brainwave states, which are calm and relaxed. And when we're in those, we can make wise decisions. Hi, Eileen. So good to have you here. So yeah, I can only encourage you to please tap your points whenever you notice that you're losing connection to your most powerful self. And by you doing that openly, courageously, and in a proud way, right, your children will start watching and they'll say, Mom, what are you doing? And then you can say, oh, well, did you know that we have these magic buttons on our body? And did you know that when you press certain buttons on the body, you can change how you feel? Isn't that true? Isn't it true that if I were, and God forbid, I'm not going to do that, if I were to slap you in the face, you would feel a certain emotion. Maybe you'd feel angry or sad or whatever, right? True? Okay, so and instead of pressing buttons that create more negative feelings, I can show you some buttons where you can create good feelings inside of yourself. Would you like to do that? And there you go. That's how it works. So I'd love to share more about this and go deeper with you into this. So please do watch the webinar for the Joyful Kids program and then sign up for the Joyful Kids training so that I can have you in my mastermind that is starting in 10 days. We only have a few more spots left, but I know someone on this call right now is feeling that pull on their heartstring and is saying, you know what, I don't know how, but I want to help kids and I'm going to do that. And even if you're not a parent, even if you're not an educator, if you've never dealt with children before, if you feel your heart resonating, I say go for it because then it's right. Linda's saying, I would like to do this every day, every 2 days with you. Just do it with others. It empowers, yes. You know, I miss live events so much. I really miss being in a room with people and being able to do these processes and feel you guys 3D. And I pray that soon we will be able to be hosting at least small events, right? So that the hardcore fans like you guys can come and we can be together again. And in the meantime, let's make the most of this online opportunity that we have, because I just know from, you know, coaching so many people all over the world, I hardly ever see my clients. The connection that we can build online on a Zoom call, you know, like this, it's huge. I feel you guys, and I'm sure you can feel each other too, because we're in one vortex together. And when we create these loving vortexes, not only will our children benefit from it, but we're literally going to help this collective consciousness to rise. And I think that is what we need to do right now. Every single one of us can do something. So the first step is to make sure that you don't let fear and uncertainty and worry and all those emotions weigh you down. Step out of them. Take breaks throughout the day. Notice when you go negative in your mind. Switch off the TV. Switch off the media. Switch off Facebook. You know, go offline. Get out into nature. Get your hands dirty. Start digging up some earth. Plant a tree. Hug a tree. I don't care what you do, but get out there. Don't always be in this vortex. I mean, now I really appreciate you being here. But, you know, after this, turn it off and take breaks and encourage your kids to do that too. And another thing, simple things, technology-free dinners. Hello? That should be a thing. It's not even good for your body to scroll and eat. Your brain doesn't even know you're eating. It can only do one thing at a time. So those would be my suggestions for you today. And thank you so much for spending your precious time to be with me. So I suggest let's close the circle together, and do please share this video with your friends if you feel that I said anything that makes sense or is helpful to you. So let's maybe place our hands on our hearts. And I love ending sessions with the compassionate prayer from Buddhism. And I'm not a Buddhist, so you can also use other words. So let's take a few breaths into our hearts. And then if it feels right for you, you can repeat after me saying, may all beings feel safe. May all beings feel healthy. May all beings feel happy. And And may all beings live life with ease. Thank you. Thank you so much for being my friend. Thank you for being here. I wish you a beautiful day or night wherever you may be. Bye bye. Auf Wiedersehen.